these two women like put burn gel on themselves that had been invented in some dude's basement, and let themselves on fire for almost 30 seconds. And then somebody stood there with like a fire extinguisher. And when they were like too hot, he would like blow them out. Like, what?
Wow.
Isn't that
Huh.
crazy? That's how they got the shot of them like burning.
Welcome back, fans and friends, to the Complete Guide to Horror podcast. Today, we have a special interview episode. You'll recognize our guests from Black Christmas, Wrong Turn 2, Children of the Corn, and of course, Final Destination 3.
A few degrees won't hurt.
Please welcome actress, director, and star, Yan-Kay Crystal Lowe. Crystal, how are you today?
Good. I'm waiting for an applause track that I was going to bring for myself. Can I do that? Can I just
Oh, yeah.
snap for myself?
Yeah, of course. You can do anything.
And thank you. You got my name pronounced correctly. Congratulations to you. That's a good. Yeah, I mean, you can call me Crystal from now on, but it's always nice to see people make an effort. And I kind of took my Chinese name back in the last couple of years ago, so it's a little bit foreign for people to kind of wrap their brains around it. And I get asked a lot, is it okay if I call you Yan-Kay? Is it okay if I call you Crystal? I'm like, they're both my name. You can call me either. Or the point was that I was taking it back, not, I didn't care what other people were calling me, to be honest.
Nice. I think it's so important, especially with, I guess, representation in cinema as well. I mean, with the Oscars that just happened, there was a huge ton of Asian American representation that hadn't been seen before. So, and also as a member of the LGBT community, it's always great to see representation. So, I applaud you for that.
Thanks. Well, I mean, I grew up in this business. I started when I was 15, right? So, and also I came into the business in a really different time where, I had, because I'm biracial, people really wanted me to just pretend that I wasn't. They wanted me to just fake being all white and, and I very few people know that I'm half Asian, or they don't see it in me immediately. And the advice that I was given was, hey, you got to change your name. And that was told to me not by one person, but like repeatedly. I lost jobs because of it. Because as soon as they found out I was Asian, they were like, oh yeah, no, sorry. That happened where I was supposed to play an Italian woman's daughter. And to be honest, I absolutely could have, like, we looked like I could be her daughter. But then he found out I was Asian and he was like, you know what, it's not going to work. Sorry. And so I just kept getting that note, or, can you Asian yourself up more? Which I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
That's not a thing. I am just what I am. And so it just got to the point where I was exhausted by the whole thing. And I was like, nope, it's my turn. I get to take back whatever I want. And this is my full name. And I'm not going to shy away from either or. And I'm not going to feel bad about taking it back either. Because that's weirdly instilled in people. Like, you're not allowed to do that because you didn't go by that name in the beginning. It's all this weird BS. And I feel like people should just do what they want. If it makes you feel good and makes you happy, then it's up to you. So, that's the entire story of that. I'm sure you didn't need to hear that, but that's where it comes from.
No, for me, this is very important. I think it's really crucial for people to take back the power, especially when it comes to their name, when it comes to their culture. Otherwise, how will we know, as someone who, I guess, is, for lack of a better word, white, these are things that we also still need to understand as well, because some people might think, oh, it's just a name. And it's like, it's not just a name. It's also the cultural background. It's also the fact that we should be proud of who we are. So, no, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, it's and my Chinese name means like happiness after the rain after a drought. Like it's such a long, it's so and
Nice.
my Chinese grandpa picked it. And because I had the spelling of my last name is actually Lo, it's not Lowe, my real last name. And again, I had
Ah,
to change it because they wanted me to whiten myself up. That's what I was told. So I had to change the spelling of my last name so people didn't know I was Asian. And having I'm
ah.
very close with my grandparents, like really tight. I grew up with them. They raised me, in a huge part of my for a huge part of my life, and that was I had to hide that from them because I didn't want them to know because it felt so disrespectful to they're immigrants and I didn't want to disrespect them. So it's a whole thing, but yes, seeing everything everywhere all at once when I'm like, damn,
Yes.
look at my people. Um, but also just seeing new films in general, that represent a bunch of people in every community. I feel like everything has been written by the same point of view for so long. I'm just like,
Yes.
oh,
Yes.
I'm over it. We know what that point of view looks like. We get it. We've seen so many of it. So like, I'd love to see things told from a different perspective, which is why I started writing and directing. That's kind of what led me into that.
Nice, nice. I was actually just about to ask. So before we do get into Final Destination, so
Mhm.
I've been seeing that you've been quite hard at work on your debut directorial short film titled Afterglow.
Yeah.
And, as someone, I also went to film school, I'm also a fan of your work. So it's been very exciting to see your updates, not only on your short film, but also you've been posting a lot about, oh, this is the camera we used today, or this is how we got this cool shot. And for me, I'm always like, oh, I know how they did that. So it's always very exciting. So how did Afterglow come to be?
So I'll actually tell you the post that you saw. It's a bit of a whole story. So
Oh,
Afterglow is actually not my directorial debut. I have directed two other shorts
ah,
before, but it is the first short that I wrote, directed, and starred in. I've never done
nice.
that, and I shot it during COVID. So, like for my film buffs out there, if you guys are film nerds, I'm like a huge film geek, which I didn't know, but now I'm super proud of that. Like I won't touch cameras all day. I don't know as much as I should, but like I'm obsessed. We shot it with a Sigma MP. It's like tiny camera. I had a boom op and a sound guy, and that was it. Sorry, a sound op and my DOP, and that was it. I made everything in there. I literally went to IKEA, like bought the furniture. I set decked everything. I
Nice.
begged people for locations. I had a producer, my friend, who's also in it. Like this was the
Hmm.
first thing I've ever done on zero budget. Um, and then we fundraised for it afterwards a little bit, and now I've written a pilot to go with it. So it's a bit different than the other things that I've done. The other shorts I directed, I didn't write, so that was kind of neat because I got to explore with it. When you're not in it, you have more time to really be like, how do I want to? I really was exploring with color in my last short, so storytelling with color.
Yep.
I love using color. Moonlight's one of my favorite films, so
Hmm.
I try to take inspiration from understanding how they were using color to mold the story with the actors. What you saw on my posts, I am super lucky. I've been on Hallmark for God the last like 8 years. I think the time is just flying, and I can't remember now because of COVID. It's like erased half the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Hallmark is did their very first female directing initiative, so I am the first recipient of that. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, so
Nice. Yeah.
super cool. Well, they just wanted me to stop annoying them because I just was nonstop hounding them. That's what I think. I was like, "You better get those." After 8 years begging every 6 months, hi, I need that. I think you should hire me as a director. So what you saw me posting was I got to go and shadow all through prep and to post on one of their movies, and then later this year I'm going to get to direct my own.
Nice. Ah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So that was super cool because when I was on there too, I so here's some funny, weird stuff. If you watch Black Christmas, there's an actress in that movie called named Jessica Harmon. And for anybody who's an iZombie fan or anybody who's a 100 on the CW fan, Jessica Harmon is in both of those. So Jessica and I met in Black Christmas, and we've kind of stayed friends ever since. She ended up being the director that I shadowed.
Oh,
Isn't
it,
that
it like
crazy?
all comes together.
All of it. And she has directed like 14 movies in 3 years. That girl is on fire. And
Wow.
she's so good at her job. She's amazing. She's not acting at the moment. She's mainly directing, but she's so good. And I was so lucky to get to like be with her. Plus, we already had this great relationship. And then another weird thing is, I would say about 2 years ago, Glenn Morgan, who is the creator with Jim Wong of Final Destination and Black Christmas, and we reconnected, and he is literally like my mentor. He texts me every couple days, yelling at me to write, uh, in text yelling, and by that I just mean an exclamation. So yeah, it's really kind of come full circle. Like we're all working together again in another
Yeah.
capacity. It's crazy.
It's so cool. I love when it's little, I guess, mysteries, things like that. Like if you were to go back to 2006, you would think, oh, there's no way in 2023 we'd all be working together on a different project. But
Yeah,
sometimes that's how life is.
for sure. And I think, certain people, Jessica is one of the most, uh, I don't even know how to describe. She's one of the most giving people I've ever met. She has no ego. She has no problem sharing all information. That's really rare in my industry.
Mm.
And I think amongst women, it's been really hard because it's cutthroat, man. We did not have the opportunities, nor we still don't have opportunities.
Mm.
So, you were either the only woman at the table or you were like fighting for like the one spot. And that often pit us against each other. And I'm finding as time is going by, that's like finally like really changing. And instead we're like pushing each other up. And Jess is a wonderful example of that, like just open book sharing whatever she has. And that's what I hope to do too. Because I can't wait to like get up and then bring somebody up with me, and
Yeah.
us like continue that to see what we can build.
Nice, nice. I
Yeah.
love that aspect of paying it forward. I think it's so crucial for everyone in the film industry to really take what's the word? Take proactive, really implement into their day-to-day life. For me personally, I've always had proteges in the sense of,
Mm.
when I was doing music videos, I might have a student who was really interested in how to do a music video, but they just might need some guidance or tips. So take them under my wing, or if I'm doing commercials or even these podcasts that I'm doing these days, I'm helping 5 other people with their own podcast series, and it's just nice to give back. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
and also you really find, like I always talk to, I teach acting and I talk to people a lot about this. My advice to people is always like, nobody's going to pull you up, but people will help you laterally, right? So like pull yourself up, do the research yourself, write your own scripts, create your own work. And then as soon as you start doing that, even if it's just with your iPhone, even if you're just shooting, but you're sharing with other people, your peers, you'd be shocked how many people want to help you. They just need to, nobody's going to do it for you. That's all I'm saying. It's like, you need to take the
Yeah.
initiative. And if I see people taking initiative, I'm like, I'll help you with whatever I can.
Yeah.
You're working hard to get your stuff done. I will do whatever I can to help you move along too, which I love doing. Like it benefits me so much in terms of how I feel that I like helping other people. I don't know. I'd rather do that than
Yeah.
hoard everything myself. Maybe that's the Canadian in me though. Like we're raised that way, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's such an important part of having a strong work ethic. And to take it back to Black Christmas, so you've had numerous roles in everything from Wonder, Signed, Sealed, and Delivered, as you mentioned, with your 8 years with Hallmark.
Yeah.
And, considering that if you search your name on Google, it actually labels you as a scream queen. So would you, I guess, return to the horror genre, or given that you're now doing writing and directing, would you ever consider making your own horror film?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely would. It's so funny that you kind of asked me that because Glenn and I have been chatting about that a lot. Um, he's always pushing me to try new things and try writing new things. And yeah, there is something that I'm actually working on a little bit right now. I'm
Ooh.
just in the beginnings of kind of outlining. I have an idea that we haven't really seen in North America, or in like the Western culture for a horror film kind of thriller. But one of my biggest inspirations as a director was Guillermo del Toro. Like he's one of my, you know, bow down. Like
Yeah.
obviously everybody bows
Yeah.
down to Guillermo del Toro, but like, he was somebody that really inspired me. Here's a weird thing: Hellboy 2 is like one of my favorite movies.
Yes. Yes.
Oh
It is
my
so
goodness.
underrated.
I love that movie, and I don't know what. Like, I just love that movie. First of all, Ron Perlman,
Yeah.
hello,
Yeah.
he's amazing. But the second one was like there was just something about it, and I actually had like the coolest moment. I was helping on a show called Falling Skies. They were doing a table read, and they needed someone to come and help them out. And I said, "Oh yeah, I'll come help you." And so I was like sitting next to this guy and doing this table read, and his voice was like, I'm like, this guy sounds so familiar. And we're doing our stuff, and the producer's like, "Do you know who that is?" I'm like, no. He said, "That's Doug Jones." I'm like, "Who's Doug Jones?" And then he slides it to me, and it's Doug Jones is like, Pan's Labyrinth, the eyes, the actor who does
Yeah.
it, all the incredible stuff. He's Fishman in Hellboy, and I was like, I literally started like sweating. I was like, oh my God. And then I couldn't help myself. But I was like, oh my God, I just want you to know, like, Hellboy 2 is like my favorite movie. And I love you. And you're amazing in Pan's Labyrinth. And he was like, wow, you're really fanning right now. Like, sorry. He was one of the sweetest, kindest, toughest, people I've been around. Really lovely, so sweet. But yeah, that was like a fangirl moment for me because everything Guillermo has done, he does horror in a way that's like magical and also
Yeah.
has really cool messages. Um, Pan's Labyrinth was brilliant and terrifying and also made you think when you left the theater. There's just so much to digest. I would love to do something like that. Or something that intricate or something that was funny and horror. Those are the other things
Ooh.
because I love comedy more than anything. I'm actually in a
So,
movie called A Little Bit Zombie, and I don't know if you've seen it, but
no, I
you should
don't
check it
think I
out.
have.
It's super
Yeah.
fun. That movie was like it was a Canadian made film. He raised the funds before like GoFundMe was a thing. He raised like $1 million to shoot this movie. We shot it in Sudbury, Ontario. It's like a horror comedy, and it's so funny and ridiculous. Um, it's about a guy who gets bit by a zombie infected mosquito. So he becomes like a little bit zombie, but he doesn't want to because he's a really nice HR guy and he's like the sweetest dude. So he's trying to like fight being a zombie, and I'm his bridezilla bride who just wants to get my wedding. And I don't care about him being a zombie. Like it's really funny. So that kind of stuff, that also for me would be something I would definitely be interested in because I love comedy.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Just to pivot a little bit, what I find is very interesting about some of the roles you've done, particularly with Wonder, is that you played, I guess, a bit of a mean mum type of character. And
Yeah.
I remember when I was watching Wonder, I'm thinking, oh, I know her, that's Crystal. And then I was like, oh, like, what type of character is she going to play? And then, the whole, for those who don't know what Wonder is, it's about a person that has, I guess, physical disabilities, but it's also around the culture with school bullying, and it's a really powerful movie. I encourage everyone to see it. And your
Yeah.
character, I was shocked. I was just like, this is not the Crystal that I know. Like, what's going on? And to take it back to, I guess, the impact of the Final Destination franchise. So the teddy bed scene in particular, I guess, is always the most prominent. It's always the most TikToked, Instagrammed, Twittered, talked about social media moment. I mean, yes, the first and second movie have, I guess, the more larger sequences, like the log trucks, the plane
Ooh,
explosion. But there's something about the tanning bed that just really lures people in. And
yeah.
I guess, like, with all the memes and the videos, and, people always talk about how they're afraid of log trucks, so they don't drive behind a log truck. But every single comment is always, I'll never go to a tanning bed. And I think that is so interesting because, for me personally, I remember watching it and being absolutely terrified because
Yeah.
A, I don't like claustrophobia, B, I don't like fire. So I was like, cool. I will never watch this scene again, but I'll rewatch every other part of our destination. That's fine.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that tanning bed scene was like, I used to tan so much too, which is hilarious. I called it anorexia. I was to the point where I was like, I looked like an Oompa Loompa and like nobody would tell me. It was like crazy. Um, but that scene has impacted people. I guess I've, saved people from getting skin cancer, which is great.
yeah,
Uh, Because I think of what you just said, it's the claustrophobic part when you get in a tanning bed, and it's the naked part when you get in a tanning bed. Because being naked is
Yes.
being super comfortable, right? And then being closing the thing is like the claustrophobia is that's what you're thinking about all the time. And like, it was just so smart of them to take that fear and like amplify it times 1,000, because that's what we're all thinking. Every time you pull that tanning bed down, you're like, oh God, how do I get out of there? This opens, right? Like it's a weird dome of
Yeah.
fire that you put yourself into, which doesn't make sense.
Oh, and it's crazy too because I have seen a few other movies, both released prior to FD3 and afterwards, but it never holds a candle in the same way. It might be like they do quick little shots, or someone like Jennifer Love Hewitt in I Still Know What You Did Last Summer gets locked in a teddy bed, but then she's freed, and it's like, I don't know. It feels like FD3 did it all the way to
Mm-hmm.
such crazy, I guess, lengths, but. Do you remember anything around what it was like filming that scene in particular?
Yes, it was exhausting. I think that scene actually took us like multiple days.
Oh,
I still have vivid memories of like walking back and forth in my like big coat, and my Uggs to my trailer, just like exhausted. You know what I mean? Like, and I had bruises all over my hands because we were like smashing and screaming, and the camera, they at some point they like removed the ceiling, so like the camera op had to be just like right in front of us, because it had to look like we were smashing, and then they'd give us things to smash on. I think the most impact part of that to shoot was the fact that our stunt doubles wore a fire burn gel that had just been invented
oh,
in one of the stunt guy's son's basements. And like,
ah,
some people are insane, okay? Like, and mad props to them, because they are like, they will, the things that they will do, it mind boggling to me. They deserve A, to get an Oscar nomination, and B, to be
yeah,
recognized. Really, they do, because what they do is like actually crazy. So yeah, these two women like put burn gel on themselves that had been invented in some dude's basement, and let themselves on fire for almost 30 seconds. And then somebody stood there with like a fire extinguisher. And when they were like too hot, he would like blow them out. Like, what?
wow,
Isn't that
huh,
crazy? That's how they got the shot of them like burning. It was insane. Um, and then in the alternative version, I get out, but I get hit in the head by a board. I don't know if you've seen the alternative version.
yes, yes. I
Yeah,
always
I
thought the
don't.
alternative version was uh, a little strange in the sense of it's not what I expected to happen. Yeah,
Yeah. It was supposed to be like pick your own adventure, I think. That was like the idea at that point of how do you want it to pick your own way to die. But either way, and I think the reason why they shot it like that is if you think about it, the idea of somebody finally getting out of that tanning bed and then still dying is kind of amazing. It's like fate's getting you no matter what, even if you get out of this damn tanning bed. So I think that's why they did that. Um, but again, the stunt guy said to me, he goes, I said, I'll do my own stunts. And he was like, oh, you will? Okay, great. And so I get hit in the head with a board, and he hit me in the head with a board. And I was like, what? You just hit me in the head. And he was like, well, what did you think we were going to do? Like, sorry, what? I'm sorry. Are you guys actually hitting each other in the head with I'm not doing this. Like, I think it was my first realization of that stunt people actually do this.
yeah,
Like, they
yeah.
actually drown themselves. They throw themselves off building. Guys, this is insane. What are you doing? It was that moment that I gained the most respect for what they do for a living, because I don't know, I guess I thought it was like a foam board, or like it was a fake thing. Real two by four. Not doing that again. Never. No thanks. Yeah, so that was an interesting moment from that. And the screaming for so long. I mean, your voice is just like dead by the end of it. And I think, my goggles get burned into my head. That prosthetic for me was not that bad, because they just they melt into my face. The
Mm.
Black Christmas prosthetic, because is there not an alternative version of Black Christmas too? I feel like there was.
I think there were a few alternative endings, but I can't remember if there was like an
An alternative
alternative.
death for me? I can't remember at this point. Everything's all blur. All I remember is that Black Christmas, the prosthetics were so bad for me because my eyes get cut out, right? And so in order to do that, they build the prosthetic on top, right? And then they do, but that means I can't see for the entire day. So like I was like basically looking out of a tiny slit and someone's walking me back and forth the set. I remember feeling so nauseous, and it took like 3 hours to do that. And I made the mistake of asking the makeup artist, I was just making small talk, but I said, "Oh, do you have a girlfriend?" We were like talking about this. I talked to my boyfriend, and he had just broken up with his girlfriend, and he was not happy about it. And so then for 3 hours of getting my prosthetics, there's him just angry, raging about his ex-girlfriend. And I was like, oh God, why did I ask this question? I mean, I'm glad I'm here for you to talk about, but like, this is 3 hours and you're still so mad. She's not coming back. I'm stuck in this chair. So that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do feel somewhat validated knowing that it was real stunt actors for the teddy bed scene, because I remember watching it, God, this is probably going back 15, 16 years ago, and I remember thinking, this looks too real. I think this is why I was so scared of it. I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's just CGI.
Nope. They were lit on fire. They were actually
terrifying.
It is terrifying. It was, and I remember sitting there like, are we doing this? Now that burn gel went on to become like Hollywood's burn gel. I'm pretty sure that that gel is like used everywhere now within filmmaking. So it ended up being an amazing product. But like, do you test that out? Because I don't.
No, thank you.
To me, that just seemed crazy. But again, stunt people, man, they're just fearless, and they're born that way. They get on set and they're like, what are we gonna do next?
Yeah.
Sure.
Do you ever, I guess it's different considering yourself and Shalane had filmed that scene compared to a viewer at home. I guess in the almost 20 years since you and Shalane filmed that movie, do you find it difficult to watch back certain scenes in Final Destination 3 or even Black Christmas?
No. I mean, not really. I mean, I very rarely watch them. It's very weird when you do a movie, you do it, and then it's gone, and it doesn't even come out till like a year after you shot it. Sometimes. So it's like getting out of a relationship, and I always call going on set summer camp. You get on when you go to summer camp, you go there, and it becomes your whole life. Like everybody's best friends, and you're like, I'm gonna write to you every day, and we're gonna stay. And you don't, because you have to go on to the next summer camp, or you go back to your school, or you have a separate life. So I don't really watch. I very rarely watch anything that I've done over and over again. Wonder I watched that scene a lot because working with Mandy Patinkin was like a dream come true for me. I'm obsessed with Princess Bride.
Yes.
And, he actually, the little boy was too, that played my son. And so Mandy actually in front of him did My Name is Inigo Montoya, Prepare to Die. And I like almost passed out, my heart just was in my chest. It was he's such an icon. So I watched that scene because it was really exciting for me to work with him. And here's another weird thing, that the guy who plays my husband in that is Steve Basic, another Vancouver actor. He's now dating my sister-in-law, which is so random.
It's a very small world.
It's a small world. Yeah, it's really funny how everything kind of worked out. But that movie, if people go see Wonder, it was I booked that off a cold read, and I don't know if people know what a cold read is, but essentially I went into audition for like one of the science teachers. And I got called back for that. And then I didn't, on the day, the director was like, I think you should read for this. So he just gave me the lines and said, go outside in the hall and memorize it and come back in. And I was like, okay. And then booked it. And I play in that I'm really the only unforgivable character in that film. But there's people out there like that. And you needed that to see where it came from. For her son, right?
Yeah.
And how it came. You needed it. So Nobody likes me in that movie. Means I did my job.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I mean, it's clear from all the TikToks and the Instagrams that yourself and Shalane have quite a legacy for yourselves, especially with Ashley and Ashlyn. So, I've seen everything from fan-made Funko Pop dolls to t-shirts to even, it's called Stared Accounts, which is a portmanteau for stalker fans slash, it's like they are so enamored with the characters in Final Destination that they'll change their profile picture to Ashley or Ashlyn. They try and pretend that they're them. Personally, I don't understand it, but hey, this is the internet.
Yeah.
Are you surprised by the enduring legacy of the characters of Ashley and Ashlyn?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm always surprised when anything I do lasts for so long. It's been a long time. Final Destination was a long time ago, and people are still interested. I will say, and now I have fans on all the spectrum, right? Like I'm on Hallmark, right? So like the fans are usually totally different than on Final Destination.
Yeah.
Horror fans are some of the sweetest, most dedicated, lovely people I've ever met. And it's weird because you don't expect that. You expect people that like love gruesome stuff. But I get that the legacy continues only because of the people that I've met so far. It seems to me like people love horror films because I'm scared of horror films. I very rarely watch them. I'm a Zoolander girl. You know what I mean? I'm like
Yeah.
That's like this is 40 Judd Apatow. I'm a comedy girl. But I love adrenaline rushes personally.
Yes.
So like I love roller coasters. I love all these weird things that will like give me an adrenaline rush. And it feels like that's what the horror films are for. Are for people that like are obsessed with our kind of films. So like I get that part makes sense to me. It's an adrenaline rush. And I've also been shocked about how much in the LGBTQ community, how much of a following we have in that community.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I didn't know that people identified with Ashley and Ashlyn or secretly wanted to be Ashley and Ashlyn, like
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
cool.
Ah, I was surprised by that too because I thought, maybe it's only just me that likes the characters of Ashley and Ashlyn. But then you go on Twitter, you go on TikTok or Instagram, it's a lot of LGBT people that are like, oh, they're iconic and they've got the Juicy Couture outfits and we love how camp they are. And I'm thinking, oh, it's not just me, it's a lot of other people that feel this way. So
Yeah,
it's like I guess Final Destination's like true gay icons in a
I
sense.
think so. I mean, what other ones are there in that franchise? It's us. I mean,
Yes.
here's the fun part I think about the characters is that they're so not self-aware and they're just the worst, but they lean into just being the worst, right? Like
Yeah.
there's something really wonderful about not being self-aware, and I miss those days. Like when I watched Schitt's Creek, I was like, oh my God, I want to be Moira again in the beginning so bad. Where like I go and just like sob in my closet and like am a dramatic and I get to throw my wigs at people and I can't like handle anything. I get that feeling. So yeah, I understand. I get it. Ashley and Ashlyn, and I think in our scene, I think one of Shalane's lines is something like, that's not what she tries to make me realize that something isn't nice. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. It's not, like we're so unaware. There's something wonderful and beautiful about being totally not aware and so self-involved. It's
Yeah.
fun. I would love to be self-involved again. I used to be that girl. It was so fun. I miss it so much. So I could see why people are drawn to that because they're like, let me just be that for a hot minute. Let me
Yeah.
just like not care about the world issues and care about like the clothes that I'm wearing and like, yeah, I
Yeah.
get it. Yeah, I think that's across the board. I don't think that's just LGBTQ. I think that's everybody. Yeah, I think that's like people that are like, God, can I just be self-indulgent for a minute and not care if you don't like it? That's
Yeah.
something that Ashley and Ashley offered. They didn't care what you thought at all, at all.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun.
It's so interesting with how I guess the whole aspect of Y2K culture, which has seen a resurgence, particularly among I guess today's teenagers.
Mm.
They seem to love the early 2000s, everything from like old like I say this, VHS players, I still have a VHS player, but they really love, I guess, outdated or obsolete technology. They love the fashion. And actually, there's been quite a few celebrities who have really taken a shine to Ashley and Ashlyn. So, for instance, there's a pop star named Slater who based her entire debut EP album art cover on the teddy bed scene, but she changed it into her own format. She made the lines pink instead of blue. And she, I remember it was 3 weeks straight. She kept posting a screen cap from Final Destination 3 being like, day one of me trying to get Crystal and Shalad's attention that I've copied their scene. And I remember thinking, oh, I wonder if they've actually seen it yet, because I don't know.
Never seen it.
I don't know if she actually tagged like yourself or Shalane. And I'm thinking, well,
You gotta tag us, girl.
yeah, yeah. And then when it came out, I was like, oh, this is actually a really well done cover. And then there's numerous, like, I guess, other LGBT people, especially drag queens in particular. In Sydney, this is going back about 8 months ago, someone did a performance to Love Roller Coaster dressed as Ashley and Ashlyn with the tracksuit stripped down. But then I don't understand prosthetics, even though I work in movie making world, but they had a thin layer of skin and then they peeled the skin off and it's all burnt. And I was completely shocked because I was the only one that knew the reference, but I was like, that is creative. How did they come up with that? Like, it completely
Also,
blew my mind.
I mean, that would just take so long. That's like some of these drag performances. I used to have a burlesque troupe a million years ago. I used to produce burlesque shows called Sneaky Kiki's Girlesque. And
Nice.
not to compare them, but burlesque and drag have some similarities in terms of the comedy in their performances. You know, they really tell story with their performance. It's not just coming out and just taking things off or keeping them. There's like a showmanship element to it that I really really like. There was a girl in burlesque that did that. I can't remember what the song was, but she took her skin off too. It was like, to see the real me. And so she was taking her skin off. The creativity is brilliant. I love it. I love that somebody thinks our stuff is iconic. How cool is that? There
Yeah.
was a girl that came to a convention wearing those, what did we have? We had pink camo army pants, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I should have kept those. Those are the things that you forget on the day that you're like, I should keep this stuff. Like with Rita on Hallmark, I've asked to keep her glasses because like those are mine. I
Yeah.
created
Yeah.
Rita and those glasses are the one thing. And I wish I had kept those camo pants. I don't know what I would have done with them, but I would have just had them. And it would have been, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, plus considering how this legacy keeps going on and on, I'm sure there's probably some fair that'd be like, oh, hey, can we buy that costume for you? We'll pay you like 10 grand. It's
Yeah.
like, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe.
Now, just one final question. So before we started recording this podcast, we had a revelation that you had actually been to Australia before, and we have some
Yeah.
connections. So I'm based in Sydney, and you mentioned that you were born in Canada, and you had traveled to the Gold Coast and Melbourne previously.
Yeah. So actually, first of all, my sister is now living in Sydney and loving it. I mean, the only problem with her living there is she's so far and our time difference is so weird. So like we have to schedule calls, but she's loving it and sending me really cool pictures. So I'm going to have to get out there to visit her. But a million years ago, I was Miss Molson Indy Canada. And so I got to come to the Gold Coast and be with Miss Indy Australia. Do they still do that? I don't know.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because they used to also do Manhunt, which was like another, like the male version, which I thought was hilarious. And I love now. Now I'm like, yeah, do the Manhunt. I'm over it. But they flew me out to the Gold Coast, and I got to go do, the tour. I got to be at the Indy racetrack and do all the Indy stuff with them. Cuddle with a koala, I went to like rock shows. It was really cool. My life is really weird. I've done a million things, but Australia was a pretty fantastic time in my life. So hopefully I'll get back there so I can check it out more. Because I was really only in the Gold Coast and Melbourne. I haven't been to Sydney yet, and I want to get there.
Oh, to be fair, there is a bit of a culture war in Australia, specifically between Sydney and Melbourne. So Melbourne thinks they're better than Sydney. Some Sydney people think they're better than Melbourne. And then Gold Coast just has its own designation where it's technically better than every other place in Australia, but we just don't like to admit it because we're just like, how dare you have 300 days of sunshine and all the theme parks and all this great stuff.
So I feel like there's no better person to make that call than me. So I will let you know. We'll do another podcast follow-up. As the Canadian, girl coming in, it should really be me that decides. So I'll just stand in the middle. Can I do that? Can I stand in the middle?
Yeah, of course.
And I'll hold flags and like we'll do a thing. Somebody else, a tanning bed will burn in one of them, and that's how you'll know. Like I feel like if we're gonna do this, like let's just do it. Let's like lean into it. If anyone wants to follow me, I am official Crystal Lowe. I had somebody hack my original Instagram and delete it. Yeah, with all of my followers and my check mark. So I've had to restart an Instagram account, and now I have to go back and get the check mark again, blah, 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 which I don't have time to do, but I'm going to try and figure it out. So if you want to follow me, I'm at official Crystal Lowe. Please come and say hi. I'm actually on Cameo as well, and that's been kind of fun. I didn't think I would go on that, and then I did, and I had a blast. So, if people have been, asking me for requests, of course, from Final Destination and those kind of things. But just keep an eye out if you want to see some other very different work. It's on Signed, Sealed, Delivered. And I will be directing a film soon. So if you're interested in filmmaking, I'm going to be posting about that and the journey of doing everything. All on my Instagram. Please come check it out. I'm also on TikTok, but I never post. I'm just obsessed with looking at other films. So eventually I will post on that too. So come and find me. Please come say hello. I'm always interested in meeting fans.
Nice. And to our listeners, Crystal's social media links are in the description below for this video. And also just want to say thank you very much, Crystal, for joining me today. This has been a huge honor. And I also feel just so validated with my fear in Final Destination. I think you've actually cured my trauma.
I don't want to do that as the Scream Queen I am. So I'm going to have to make another one and terrify you again. That's the whole point. I can't cure all the trauma. When you want the complex stuff, and then you can go back to the trauma. That's the whole point of horror.
Oh, I kid you not. So about 2-3 weeks ago, I had been joking on my personal Instagram being like, oh, I'm gonna react to the tanning bed scene because everyone knows that I will never watch that scene. I always reference it in all our other episodes. And then I was like, all right, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna do it. And then I watched it up to the point where I think it's the coat rack or whatever knocks over, and straight away I went, nope, not doing that. And instead I just
people are always like, are you scared of tanning beds? And I'm like, well, I didn't actually die,
Yeah.
So like, not really. It was so funny for so many years. I mean, God, I've been killed in movies like 50,000 times, it feels like. There was a point where it got to the point where my parents, when I would call them, they'd be like, so what part do you die? And I was like, oh my God, I just need to be in a movie where I live till the end. And also it doesn't have a number at the end of it. That was my goal. Be in movies that doesn't have a number at the end of it. The first one, So it's so funny. And I guess I have those movies too. Arachnophobia scared the crap out of me. We talked about before we started. It terrified me. I can't watch that again. I've never seen Silence of the Lambs all the way through. The psychological thrillers are the ones that I'm most interested in, but they freak me out.
Yeah.
Like I can't watch them,
Same here. The more that it gets into my mind, the more I think, yeah, I can't finish this. And yet I run a horror podcast, so you think I'd be able to watch horror films, but sometimes I'm just like, yeah, I can't do this. I'll just read the Wikipedia summary.
Yeah, for sure. That's all I need. Yeah, I always lean a little bit towards, again, my taste is like, I'm mainly watching Fleabag 50,000 times. That's my jam. I love Mindy Kaling. I love Never Have I Ever. I'm like a comedy girl. That's what I am. I'm watching people be silly and dumb. I think I just need it to escape from like real life.
Yeah. That nice little escape. So
yeah, anything that makes me laugh is good.
Same. You know what? I might actually change this to the complete guide to comedy movies, and then I'll just remove all the other horror movies, and we'll just start doing Judd Apatow.
Or we can redo comedy characters if they were in a Judd Apatow movie. So like it in our world could be played by
Ooh.
Seth Rogen, which I would love to see that. You know what I mean? Like what
Oh,
would Seth Rogen's version of it, of the clown of Pennywise be?
he'd probably just be like smoking joints or something.
Yeah.
I'd pay to see that.
Don't run. I don't care. You know, sitting around smoking. Like I'm amazing. I'm not gonna chase you. That would be I would love to see that.
So, so, uh, so Crystal, just wanted to say again, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here.
Anytime, anytime. Listeners, let us know in the comments which Final Destination movie is your favorite. It's obviously going to be number 3. And please show our special guest some love. Thanks for watching and see you next time.
Mwah!